You've got seats, you're all ready. Thank you very much. Before we actually start the official meeting, I think it would be a bad idea if Chris Mayor over here just gave a short introduction to what this committee is about. Because it's a new committee, it's got responsibilities, and perhaps Chris, with your permission, gives a little introduction about a few introduction what's going on. Please could I ask everybody who does speak to speak into the microphone, which I'm not doing at the moment, because it's difficult for everybody to hear at the back. And it's only that people should hear, they make the effort to come. We want everybody to be able to participate there. So it's as I'd like to give Councillor Cook that Chris Mayor gives an introduction.
Okay, good evening everyone. Actually, could I ask Tom, would you mind coming up and pressing the button? Sure, that's all. I had intended to start in front, but I'll start by the microphone instead, so that everyone can hear me. Okay, good evening everyone, and hello over there, welcome. I've just got a couple of slides just to talk about the role of the committee and the purpose of the committee and how one might imagine the committee's the decisions that the committee will be invited to take, and how the debate might unfold over this evening and in coming meetings. So essentially the role of this committee is to be holding the organisation to account. That's both parts of the organisation that are run by Barnet Council, but also by our partners and our contractors, holding to account for three principal things. So first of all, that's making sure that the priorities, outcomes, the things that the council as a whole want to see happen for Barnet, we currently capture in our corporate plan, in performance management plans and in contracts, those things actually happen. So they are currently set out in the corporate plan. We'll be developing a revised corporate plan by the end of this calendar year. That's the first thing. Secondly, the role of this committee is to ensure that the council is managing the next budget. And thirdly, that the changes that need to happen because of the things that are set out as priorities in the corporate plan, or that are necessary in order to deliver the savings that have been set out in the budget, that those plans are happening to the right pace, and that you are assured that they're going to deliver the outcomes that are envisaged. So to put it another way, given the scale of the financial challenge that the council faces, and given the ambition of the authority, it would be deeply unwise for us to only be monitoring the successful results of the budget by looking at the budget monitoring at the committee. You need to be assured that the activities and actions that need to be taken by the council, by contractors and partners, is in hand to deliver the change envisaged in the budget. That's principally what we're here to do, and it's important because this is the place, this is the principal committee that is responsible for performance management and budget management in the architecture of council meetings. In other words, if we're not doing that job here, it is not getting done anywhere else. So the theme committees, for example, are not themselves monitoring the budget of the delivery units that they have oversight of. Neither are they performance managing the performance of the service. They are there to commission. They are there to ensure that we have the right policy and practice in place. They are not there to manage the day-to-day performance management, unless, I'll come on to this in a moment, we make a positive recommendation to them to make a change. The second thing the committee is about, of course, from time to time, and there's an issue this evening that we're discussing, there are things that are happening which may not be set out in the corporate plan, might not be kind of in the budget, but there are things that are causing a performance issue out there in the community or elsewhere that we feel requires a more urgent debate and discussion, and this is a fully legitimate forum in which those things can take place. And I guess over the course of the 3 years. We will need to just make sure we're getting the balance right between those sorts of issues and also those bigger, longer-term goals that set out. So the next quick point to make is that in the old world, we had a committee that was very much looking at the performance management of services run by the council, and we also have a committee that's looking at the performance management of contracts, services that were provided and outcomes that were being achieved by contractors, partners, and the like. Both of those are now subsumed within this committee. I just want to, I guess, stress the point that it's important that this committee has oversight of the totality of council activity and council expenditure. Just to put it into some kind of perspective, the previous Contracts Overview and Scrutiny Committee was looking at principally about 8 or 9% of the council's budget. Now it's absolutely critical, and I suspect many of you wouldn't want it otherwise, that this committee retains a very thorough and strong oversight of those contracts. My advice to you is that you also need to be having an equal focus on the 92% of council services which are not within the scope of those contracts. So, for example, adult social care, children's social care, street cleansing, waste and recycling, etc. They are all things that this committee needs to focus on. Okay, I just want to say a little bit about the judgments that we are likely to be considering here. So, at least 4 times a year, we'll be receiving a report that's not dissimilar to the one on the agenda this evening, which is a performance and budget report, and we'll also have some information about those major change programs that I talked about earlier on. And in considering this report, I guess there are numerous judgments you can make about it, but I suspect they will probably fall into one of 3 that are set up on the screen there. So first of all, if there is an issue that's set out in this report, we will regularly have delivery unit directors and representatives from our major contractors here, and our expectation is that you would want to question them about the performance issue and satisfy yourself that issue is either under control or there is a plan to resolve it. So I guess in the kind of scenario 1, you may satisfy yourself that you are persuaded that the service in question understands the scale of the problem and they have a plan to deal with it. In that scenario, there would be no further action for you necessary to take, your judgment for you to make. The second scenario is there is a general acknowledgement that there is a problem. You are generally persuaded that there is the capacity in place to resolve that problem, but either because of something in your waters is telling you it's not quite right, or just because of the sheer scale of the change or the issue in hand, you will want to persuade yourselves, satisfy yourselves over a period of time that issue is getting improved. In other words, you want to have more regular feedback to the committee outside of the quarterly cycle. The third scenario is where your view is you need to rope in one of the other theme committees, or indeed the Policy and Resources Committee, to help fix the problem. An obvious example of this is where it becomes clear to you as a committee that the reason why a performance issue is not getting better, or in your view cannot be fixed under the current delivery arrangement, the reason for that is because the policy of the council is wrong. So those aspirations and priorities that are set out in the corporate plan, they are thwarting the ability of a particular delivery unit contractor to deliver the outcomes that you're expecting. Now in that context, you will need to be referring that to the relevant committee. To give you an example, last year many of you will be aware that we lost a judicial review in relation to parking. That had a financial impact on the street scene delivery unit. You could have spent every meeting last year bringing the street scene delivery unit director to this meeting and asking why it was there was a problem with, in this case, the budget. We know why there was a problem with the budget, it's because we lost the judicial review and had to reduce the costs of those. So in that context, actually, if you're going to resolve that, that's something for the Environment Committee to fix, and that would be the recommendation before. Final scenario here, and I will stop, is where you're unpersuaded that there is the capability to deliver the improvement that you expect to see. And again, in that case, you'll be making a recommendation to the theme committee to ask the more fundamental question about have we got the right delivery arrangements in place and do they want to make a change.
Good. I hope you found it helpful. You're giving something up with that. Okay, let's go on straight to the agenda. Absence of members. We've got no absence that Councillor Lodeberg is subject to Councillor Marshall. Okay. Declaration of members. Do you need interest in anything particular? Anything particular? No? Okay. Okay. Before public questions, let me just have a couple of words perhaps to the new members. Just to say, we want this committee, it's an important committee, let's put it like this. We're not making any policy decisions at the moment. We can make recommendations about policy, but we're not making policy. We're not spending any money. So what's this committee doing? The committee is overviewing the whole of the council's budget, performances, etc. And this is where we want, if I may say, we should try and work together on this. Let's try and keep this committee as unpolitical as possible. Let's try and work together for the benefit of the council, because we're dealing with figures there. We're dealing with facts and figures. All right, we can have opinions of what can be done to improve it. We can't argue with figures there. So there's a limit to how much really we can argue about when we're looking at basic figures.
Unity.
Huh?
Saying unity.
Yes, have a bit of unity there. I mean, even Councillor Mitchell agrees that we can be a bit unified on this there. Let me also say to the new members not to be shy. There are lots of things which you won't understand, and I think lots of simple things like abbreviations. I remember when I joined the council many, many years ago, I went for about 6 months not knowing what an abbreviation was, because I was too scared and I looked too silly to ask, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, what does that stand for? Don't be shy. We are here to work together, and if it's something you don't understand, don't be shy about asking it. No one's going to criticise you. You're newcomers to the game there. There's a lot to work to learn, and perhaps we can all learn together. So please, we want to cooperate and want to ideally improve what is going on there. I mean, I think we can do that with goodwill on both sides. Okay. Talk about goodwill on both sides here. Let's extend that to the public questions, and perhaps we can have some goodwill from the public on the questions. No, this number said no, that's asking too much. Okay, but can we therefore, we've got 30 minutes for public questions. There's a few supplementaries which Mr. Ditch, I understand, Mr. Ditch will be taking, except for question 4, where Ms. Musgrove will be taking Mr. Henry, you know all about that, yes? Okay. So can we go ahead on supplementaries, if you have supplementaries, you haven't got that supplementaries, but on question 1, it's a fixed question which Mr. Dishman, you've got a supplementary.
Yeah.
Come here, then it says we'll go back to the 2. Yeah? The Charlton, please, because we've got quite a few questions to answer. Okay? First one, supplementary on question 1. Mr. Dishman's asking the supplementary.
Okay, thank you. Page 6 of the capital outturn report is quite explicit when it states that the full ownership of the assets remains with Capita. I presume these are the assets purchased with 12.4 million paid to Capita, and in which case, what are the assets? Over what period of time are they being depreciated? What is the anticipated remaining life? And what assessment of risk has been made that Capita might fail before the assets are written off? Surely these are all critical assessments that should have been made before handing over so much capital.
Okay, fine. Before, sorry, I should have done this before. I introduced some of the people sitting around the table for the benefit of the people who don't know. Chris Taylor, Chief Operating Officer, Ash from Governance, Jessica from Law, my Vice Chairman, Sir Cttee, and I think you know the councils there, Mr. Chairman Lloyd, and Sil, Rosenberg, and how do you finish your name, Natfi? Natfi. And Rima Patel, Jeff Cook, Kathy Levine, and so in case you don't know who it is, I hope you've been allowed it. Okay, contact question,
Now we rename Councillor Mitra.
Is it Mitra? Oh, you've
After the mayor's out there, and now councillor you try.
you try, you're on post.
Chairman,
Okay, so can we ask John Hood perhaps to come to this, and Claire Simmons? Right, let's say John Hood is Deputy Operating Officer, Claire Simmons, Commercial Customer Service Director, and Anna Earnshaw is Operations and Commercial Director. So you've got three top people to answer your questions there, and who's going to be the lucky one who's going to start with us? John?
Did you catch it, John?
You got your
Thank you. I think I was joking.
Yeah, so who's going to...
Okay, so in terms of what the assets were, I mean the capital expenditure is predominantly on IT hardware and IT software. In terms of how old were the assets, I mean just in terms of the sort of phrasing of the question, in terms of what was transferred to capital and how old were the assets. No assets. This wasn't in respect of assets that were transferred to capital. This was in respect of assets that capital were either constructing, purchasing, whether it was IT hardware, software, in respect of delivering the contract. So they are, in effect, new and have been, and that expenditure has been incurred since the beginning of the contract, predominantly over the first 12 months of the contract. In terms of the depreciation and the life of the assets, ultimately that is the point about this is they are not sitting on the council's balance sheet, so that is a matter for Capita and their accountants and their auditors. The requirement obviously under the contract is for Capita to supply IT services to the council over a 10-year period. And perhaps in terms of picking up the risk element, the risk of failure element, it is, and this is part of the reason in terms of where does the risk lie. The risk of ownership lies with Capita. They have contracts to supply IT services to the council. The extent to which there is an issue with that is a contractual position for Capita to fulfil. So as I say, the risk sits with Capita.
Okay, Mr. Dishman, your own question. By the way, is Mr. Dix okay? Is he all right?
It's fine. Yeah, it was unavoidably detained elsewhere.
As long as he's okay. Right, your own question. You've got the parking, you've been sent the special parking account.
Yeah, I've got that, that's great, yes, thank you. Does the Chairman agree with me that the use by NSL of their own bailiffs called TAS to bring in much of the PCN income in the special parking account is a conflict of interest that should be stopped, as it leads to errors like a lady in her 70s being clamped outside her home in April 14 for a penalty charge notice she paid in December 13, and she's not yet been repaid the £400 plus that she had to pay to the bailiff.
An unfortunate situation. Things happen. Which will be remedied, and if it isn't remedied soon, please let me know and make sure that it's dealt with soon. If that is the case, then yes, but any reason why that happened? You know, can we answer, do we know this particular case? Or
Sorry, the case is currently being looked into, Chair.
Right. So it will be resolved soon, one way or the other, yes?
Sorry.
Yes.
It's known about lockdown, it's taken far too long. You're quick enough to collect, very slow to pay back.
No, if that's the case, if it is the case, you say then we need to do something. We should get look into that. Then we'll do what we are change to that.
We'll be right back to Mr. Bishop.
Indeed.
Yes, yeah, I don't think it's known, but just needs a check.
Yeah, go on.
And then she'll stop ringing me.
No, look, these things happen, but it should be remedied as soon as possible. But Ms. Musgrove, say...
So I apologise for the long question, it might be a bit around the supplementary question. But I hope the councillors realise, A, what's happening here, and B, how important this is, because this is a very visible way in which we can see how Cttee is performing to its contractual requirements. And clearly what's happening is that they are seeking to hide the level of their failure in a sort of systematic and totally dishonest way by not actually producing accurate data. They're actually not actually know the real levels of dissatisfaction, and they are giving you totally dishonest figures about satisfaction levels. I'm not even sure how those governmetric surveys, and I've certainly never been asked to take part in, whereas I have had a lot of experience of not being able to get through. Before Cttee came along, there was no... I'm getting to my question.
Yeah. You can spend as long as you like. You've got 30 minutes, so you can get through the rest of your questions and we'll sort of ask the question. It's up to you. Maybe it's I was one you want that. But it's up to you. We don't have time to ask the question. Just
Okay. You lost my train of thought.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to go to the next question?
No. The point is, as I said, I hope that councillors realise how important this is, because this is how Cttee is functioning its figures. It's telling you that they've got wonderful satisfaction levels, whereas in fact they are using totally dishonest data to try and convince you. I mean, they hoodwinked you and your colleagues into this contract in the first place, and now they're continuing to hoodwink you over the performance levels, because this data that they use does not reflect the true level of satisfaction, because it doesn't take into account the number of residents who are constantly ringing the call centre and get this bogus, this number is not recognised. Do you think that's acceptable? Is this committee going to take this matter seriously and hold Cttee to account, as Mr. Naylor told us this meeting purpose was for? So, over to you, Councillor Finn. Are you satisfied?
Come to personal review. I have gone through virtually every time on the first time. I've been very lucky, perhaps. So personally speaking, I've done very well. But I do understand other people haven't done it. And there is this about this time is not available.
Yes.
That I can't quite understand why that's happening.
Right.
So,
That's a marketing.
yeah, that I can't understand.
I'll hand over to someone who's got a...
Yes.
I'll hand over to Claire and Anna in a moment. I think to your specific, is it acceptable? It is not acceptable if people are not able to get on the phone, and we recognise that during late April and into May there have been some particular issues in relation to the switchboard and some aspects of the contact centre as well. I'm going to hand over in a moment for an explanation as to why that is. That is...
Sorry, but that's not actually true, is it? This lost in the wires business, the excuse has been going on since the very first contractual committee meeting. And here we are. We're always going to events which cause lots of calls to the council as the nature of the call centre. This is a feeble excuse and there's really no...
So I think what we have in front of us is we know that during May and to some extent some time now we have some problems. That's not acceptable that we are doing. The performance information in this report, however, is in relation to the period from January through to March, and we are extremely confident that is accurate data, and that is telling a truthful view of the performance of the contact centre at that time. Not to detract from the fact that we do have some issues at the moment, and it's important that we're able to talk to you about what those are and how we are fixing them. And I think to your point about there's something in the wires, there is something in the wires, and that is part of the issue that we are in the process of fixing. So I'll hand over to Claire and to Anna to...
Just probably beforehand, I would ask that some of the expressions you're using now, sorry. Some of them are hoodwinked, dishonest. It's not the expression we like to use on this thing. If we just contractual obligations and they try to, it's mistakes can happen, things can be wrong, but dishonest is not something which we sort of like to hear, because I don't think it's true. I think there are mistakes, things go wrong, but I don't believe that it's just a little word of warning. If that was repeated outside, perhaps this privileged meeting, it could lead you to some sort of...
individuals have been dishonest, to say that the system itself is dishonest, and I stand by it, I think it is. I think it's that way, I think.
No, that's what I'm saying. So be careful how one uses it. Right, can we have some more specifics?
Thank you. Perhaps I can just pick up the point that you make around the customer satisfaction survey, the governmetric survey. As we've given you the...
Speak in the microphone.
Sorry. Any better?
Yeah.
In terms of the governmetric survey, that is a survey the council has used for a long time. and it is on the part of the customer service advisor to pass the caller on to the survey for it to be undertaken. We're fully admit that not every call goes through, though there are ways that we can monitor that, and we try to incentivise customer service staff to actually provide that survey through. However, the statistics show within our answers that more and more people are going through that survey, and therefore the satisfaction rates we're getting from that is a reflection of the greater number of people who go through it. Fully accept that not 100% of all people that go that have a call answer by a contact centre get through to the survey, and I fully accept that people that receive engaged the number of attendants will not get through to that survey. But the trend does show that satisfaction is increasing.
Are we going to have this event reported to us, and the direction of travel will be, as long as the direction of travel is positive, that's what I want to see, rather than going down. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on this as well, all of us. And but we've got to trust what the say. Okay, next one. John Dick, no, this is you, Vasco, you're doing this one, yes, as well? Number 4.
Yes. Sorry.
If you want.
Yeah, no. Can we just verify that Capita are actually using a software package specifically for telephone capping, so as to enable their autonomous system to be in place and actually prevent numbers of calls actually being registered as not reaching the switchboard? Before Capita came, we didn't have this number, it's not recognised.
Right.
Is that not, I mean, for people trying to call to receive that, why is that even necessary? Why can you not have a queuing system? You can't have a queuing system as you should do, simply because that would make
Your call is valuable to us as well. But if you didn't answer the question before, about why is people getting this number is not available? That's why I don't understand the answer.
not recognised.
Not recognised. Why is that? Is that the wireless issue?
Yeah, we've actually got two issues. So the point that I remember Cook raises around call capping, we do answer in the answer to the question. We have the ability, there is the ability to cap the number of calls where
It's software package.
it has only, it's actually part of the telephony system, it's not a special package.
You use it elsewhere, don't you, in the country?
I'm going to tell you.
I'll reply to this.
Yeah.
So the software, the telephone system we have is an Avaya phone system. Yes, that ability to exists to do that, and that ability existed in the Cisco telephony platform that we inherited and got on the council.
Did you used to use it then?
Didn't used to use what? I don't know.
It's
I
like
didn't write. Well, that is not what happens when you cap calls. What happens when you cap calls, so we do use queuing systems, and we regularly use queuing systems. As the answer says here, we have capped calls on three occasions for 3 days when the council tax runs went out. We don't cap calls any other time.
So it's not connected to that message?
If you cap, no, it's not connected to it. If you cap calls, the message that you will get is all our advisors are currently busy and we are unable to take your calls.
So it is satisfactory.
We would ask you to call back later on, which obviously people can do. The unobtainable number, the unobtainable and engaged term is a result of the capacity on the 180 lines that we have going into the council at the moment. And in particular, on certain occasions, as Chris has alluded to in April and May, we had not only a very large council tax run of 17,500, we had parking falls, schools admissions, and that flooded the lines. That is when you get the unobtainable.
I can understand that.
That's the nature of the council consent.
I'm not sure whether we asked questions. We don't answer.
I wanted to ask a question on that point.
No, it's not. Okay, thanks. Okay, so at least I've understood something now. That's good. Next one, Derek, Mr. Dishman, sir.
Yeah, simple.
You have this, yeah?
When will the report be ready, please?
Oh, good question. Simple question with a difficult answer. When will the report be ready? In the near future. But I want a more specific date to that. Lynn, yes?
Thank you, Chairman. We expect that report to be ready in September.
In
September.
September.
Lynn Bishop, Street Director, Street Scene Director. Thank you, Lynn. Okay. Ms. Mazza, supplementary again?
So where are we up to now?
Number 6.
Yes, very interesting answer about actually where the mysterious 16 million that Capita was supposed to give us, but we interesting to see. Can we have a breakdown of those bullet points and how much has gone where? So I'd be very interested to know how much has been spent on insight and business intelligence capability. And I know that you haven't, and please could somebody comment on the point about the councillors and how they've been given what sounds like defective equipment, and so they can't do their job in the first 2 weeks of becoming councillors. Surely Capita, should have been properly prepared to give them the equipment they actually need. I don't quite understand why.
That will be an item which you're taking later, discussing in detail about the council's equipment. Is that we can leave that to later? So we've got that to Councillor Cook. Motion.
Against these items.
I don't see why we can't provide that information to you. I'm sure we can do it tonight. We can send it on.
That's available. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Now, from Dick's, Mr. Dishman, from Dick's.
Yeah, sure. Question 7. If the applicant is in emergency temporary accommodation, then after 43.8 weeks, surely it's no longer an emergency, but a long-term problem, and the person should be found permanent accommodation so they can get on with their lives. Can you clarify how deleting this KPI and no longer receiving information will make the situation improve?
Mr. Laskin, how would by knocking off a few KPIs we're going to improve the situation?
I don't think we're pretending it will improve the situation. They're working at it. I don't think we're pretending it will improve the situation. I think what we're acknowledging is that there is a real and genuine issue about the supply of affordable accommodation in the borough, and that we will not necessarily be targeting those the longest stays in emergency accommodation. Certainly, exactly. It begs the question of whether it's an emergency. But actually, what we're trying to do is stem the flow of people going into emergency accommodation at high cost and deal with people with more complex needs to find suitable accommodation. Over the longer term, we will expect that figure to come down, but in the short to medium term, I think we don't expect to do so. And we believe that a more appropriate indicator is the level of private rental sector supply in this city.
So that's going to be a new...
Corporate.
Have we had that this one? No, that'll be a new one next time.
From first quarter.
First quarter. That's something to watch.
But ultimately, that would be something for the housing committee to consider. So, that's a judgment then to make about the indicators that manage the business and the new group of
Remind me, because one of the questions I want to ask later on is about who sets these indicators. Which committee? They asked us how the committee. It's a thing for later on to discuss there. Just remind me. Okay, thanks. David, yourself this time.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Isn't it poor show when 11 months out of 12 in year 2, the contractor hasn't been demonstrably entitled to KPI performance payments?
In other words, you're thinking that they haven't performed well enough to earn their KPI. Then you shepherd it. Okay, fine.
Well, sort of the question is, shouldn't we have expected better than having to fight over the KPI for all of year 2, basically?
Valid question. Paul.
Certainly that isn't really the case, because we're talking about year 2 here. In year 2, the contractor was granted relief for one particular KPI failure, which was down to a failure of the IT system, which is a system that the council had purchased, so not something that NSL could have been blamed for. Otherwise than that, every other KPI that's measurable was met, and with the relief of that one KPI that they actually passed the majority of the KPIs in that particular year. That's the true position.
Okay. Ms. Musgrove, number 9, supplementary.
Yes. This this is something I'm quite interested in. I'm genuinely puzzled. You've got 100% outturn relating to carriage and footway programmes. And
Yes, sir. Sorry.
And I asked about Collindale Ward, and you managed to get 100% figure because despite the fact that Collindale Ward received no funding at all last year. Can somebody explain why that is, please?
Again, explain, so Mr. Lord, why explain?
I'm still very, very puzzled as to why in the last year, because the Green Ward had £1.1 million of funding for roads and pavements, even until election day, you could see marvellous things happening there. But Collindale, despite having works planned, according to the councillors, had no money at all spent. I find that very puzzling. I wonder if you could explain it.
Right, I was one million from those Greenwood and nothing on Collindale. Who can answer that? Captain? I think one of the reasons that one of the roads in Golders Green is so enormous, it went all the way along. It took away a lot of the roads. Since the Avenue, if I'm not mistaken, took away lots of money because of such a long road. But that's just what I see from going around there. Okay. Sorry? Yeah, I think we can depend on it everywhere. But yes.
Alan Carpenter, Operations Director for RE.
I'm Kevin Hall, the Commissioner for Housing and Environment.
Okay. This KPI measures an annual work programme. The programme was agreed for through March 20, April 23 through 14. When RE came into existence on the 1st of October, we were given a set of projects to deliver that had a budget and a timeline. What this KPI measures is the delivery of that programme. Yeah? The programme isn't based necessarily on repairing all roads or maintaining all roads and proper. For 13, 14 it was inherited.
But I think
I don't think that's true because I think there were works.
there's a rolling program, I mean, everything gets its turn. In the cycle there, something gets done one year, something gets done the other year. I don't think there's anything sinister.
Chair, there is an annual programme that's based upon the condition of the road network in Barnet. The size of the overall programme massively outstrips the amount of money that's available to be spent. So what happens each year is you have a main programme which is funded and you have a substantial reserve programme. And that programme in the past would be agreed with the Cabinet member and with the area subcommittees. And that's the process that is followed. Also during the year, the programme can be altered if for example, you have very cold weather and therefore get deterioration that was unexpected. Other things can be brought into the programme that weren't previously on the reserve list. So, for example, last year some roads, a road in East Barnet was added in that way. But generally, it is based upon the need on the roads that are out there, which means that in some years, some wards won't get any funding.
I'm sorry, that's completely untrue. I do not believe
You know,
I'm going to say it because I don't believe
you can say
the programme of work.
Okay, back. I mean, just West Hendon Ward, plus quite a lot of money spent on it. It's a Labour ward. It's nothing. It's all been a Labour ward there, and quite a lot of money spent on West Hendon Ward there, which I go down every day to see what's going on there. So Collindale will get next year, the next year after. There it is. It's all about the volume programme according to the needs.
1.6 million.
Okay, 4 minutes to go. So if you want to get overruled on that, Derek, Mr. Dishman, number 11.
Thank you. What is the increased number of full-time equivalent posts being added by NSL to the staffing, and what extra cost will there be for the council to handle PATAS evidence pack production?
Was that just been said before? We're going to look at this on this evening, but if you want a quick answer to that one.
second part of the question was how many full-time equivalents for the plant monitoring teams? One.
So you have one inside, yes. That's the extra cost. Well, our NSL, I think is what I actually asked.
So the additional post is within the plant monitoring team, and the cost will be associated to that within that post.
Roughly.
Which we believe is about 45,000 of all costs.
Okay, that's great.
We've got time for one more question. One more supplementary you wanted.
No, sorry, it's fine.
Question, no, okay, fine. Sure, no.
Right. Would one of these issues be, that's mentioned in the answer, be that NSL issued 7,000 orders for recovery outside of the statutory timescales, i.e. late, which are invalid even if not challenged by the motorist, and shouldn't the council do an audit of these and refund all the money illegally collected by bailiffs?
Would you like?
There's
one more answer to that.
That's rules for recovery which were issued at the time.
I think you're referring to something that's historical. It goes back some months ago, where NSL picked up the additional cost of council incurred for that mistake. So that hasn't actually cost the council anything. The council is around about £27,000, which the council will come back off of NSL for that issue.
And this was for items,
It was for not processing within statutory time.
No, it goes to the council.
That's correct, yeah. It's an NSL mistake, and NSL paid for that, so.
7,000 people sent to bailiffs when they shouldn't have been. Is any bad? It's really what I'm after.
From supplementaries to supplementaries.
Yeah, I know, yeah. It's fine, we'll be seeing it in the audited accounts shortly.
Okay, you've got 1 minute.
Yes, the Chaser's developments at the crematorium, which personally I find extremely offensive, I'm sure lots of residents do. The excuse for what they've done in Hendon changes from day to day, removing the memorial benches. And now I just cannot, do you really accept that what they've done is acceptable, is not offensive? And the latest story, they're now saying that people have been carrying in their own benches, their own memorial benches, into Hendon crematorium. This is the reason why they're removing them. That's just so clearly not true, is it?
Don't push it, it's a good question, don't push the answer. And why are the benches being removed? Why not they being removed? The case for you, but you want to sit down.
Yeah. The program of removal of benches has been going on for 3 years. It's been going on prior to the read. The program of removal of benches has been going on for 3 years prior to the advent of REIT, and we've just carried on with that. It had followed some complaints and necessity from the council to that was running short on area, and what we were looking at are the unlicensed benches. None of those benches have been destroyed, they're all within storage.
They're all stacked horribly to the side of the crematorium.
Okay. See, unlicensed benches, taken over, stored.
And what we're trying to do, unfortunately, the records are not what one would hope to have received, and we are trying to contact the owners by leaving notices and signs around the site, inviting people to come. Okay. And if that's the case, I'll look at it and deal with it.
Absolutely sensitive.
You get the point is, in a little bit, you want people then to sit down and visit their loved ones in the cemetery. There should be a place for older people there to sit down. So could we perhaps make sure there is something like that? And not so many to take away. Because I'm not under a bench in and like that.
It's about making money, it's not about...
No, we want to do the mindful as well. So, anyway, thank you very much. And thank you, questioners. I think that we did nice on those questions. We handled it in a decorous manner, not too excited and not too... But thank you very much. Okay.